Hi Sam, how are you doing today?
Good, Gilbert. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, it's been few years since we last we've been contacting each other, but finally you're here. I really appreciate your time here, and maybe you can share with us a bit about your background, your company, Kincora Copper sort of background. What is this your company does?
Yeah, Kincora has relatively recently pivoted to a hybrid generator model, prospect generator model, looking at predominantly funding our exploration by third-party investment. And in the first 12 months of that business model coming to fruition, we've seen about 7 million of partner-funded investment, about 16,000 meters of drilling, and we've also received about $450,000 worth of management fees from operating two of those earnings. So those partnerships have unlocked potentially over 100 million of asset level partnerships. So that tries to reduce the dilution for shareholders, not at the listed company level, but at the project level, and have very good technical partners to come in and help us advance these projects.
That's a really interesting model that you got. Let's just before going into different projects and details, talk about a bit of the macro. What's happening in the commodities market? So copper and gold, obviously copper seems to be a sort of in a good spot. Remain very strongly in terms of the price and demand. So how do you view Kinkora's growth potential as it's sort of evolving, a sort of new copper price here?
Yeah, and I think I'll answer that in two separate ways there, Gilbert. With the equity markets, obviously sentiment's improved. Within our belt, we're seeing porphyry explorers getting rewarded. One company, Waratah Minerals, this time last year were a less than 30 million market cap. That one hole, now they're 200 million market cap. Link Minerals only in the last month was again less than 100 million market cap. A couple of good results. Now they're over 100 million market cap. So exploration results are getting well supported, and we're looking at our portfolio of projects. We've got 8 projects in the portfolio. A number of those have got partners. A number of those we still 100% own, and some of the more advanced flagship projects sit in that boat are analogs to those two other companies that we've just mentioned. So we're looking at, do we do some focused exploration ourselves with the money that we raised last year, or do we look at further asset level deals? And the second point I wanted to raise is with the commodity price environment, as you touch on, you're seeing the majors making good money, and they're increasingly coming back to early stage growth opportunities and new discovery opportunities. They're increasingly wanting to do that in partnership with good juniors. We're quicker at ESG considerations. We're quicker at getting on the ground. If we find what they're looking for, they've got their foot on that project. If they don't, it's very easy for them to move on, and they don't have the headcount, the ESG, the baggage that comes with that. So we're seeing that as a really interesting dynamic. Effectively, the majors looking to outsource exploration, and us with the projects that we've got in our team, we're a very attractive vehicle for that.
Yeah, indeed. So you talk about, of course, in terms of jurisdiction too, your project. So it seems like Australia is one of your main focus right now for Kincora. So what sort of advantages of operating or in sort of this mining-friendly jurisdiction here? Because copper porphyry, like especially, is sort of all around the different parts of the world too. So how does it compare in operating in Australia?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. We're in the central west of New South Wales in the Macquarie Arc. That is Australia's leading copper porphyry belt. If we're trying to attract majors, they can go to the Central Andes at 4,000, 5,000 meters. They can go to Africa. They can go to any jurisdiction. What do they and we like about this belt? Well, there's a big metal endowment. There's over 160 million ounce gold equivalent resource inventory. There's Cadia, there's Northparkes, there's Cal. There's a number of world-class existing operations. There's a culture of exploration. There's the existing infrastructure that we've got. It's not seasonality like what you've got in, say, the Golden Triangle in British Columbia. You've had a number of good discoveries. Operating costs is a key one. We just drilled last year one hole at a project that had never been drilled before, and the cost to us with the New South Wales government grant was less than 100,000 US dollars. If you were to drill that hole or that target in, or test that, wanting to test an equivalent target like that in North America, that program would probably cost you $1 million US. So it's an attractive jurisdiction from, I guess, a sovereign risk perspective, from a cost perspective, from a metal endowment perspective, and most importantly, from an investment perspective of a number of juniors having success that's getting rewarded by the market.
Yeah, indeed, Australia's definitely attracts some good attention. You also have some projects in different parts of the world. Mongolia, you recently we gained full rights of your Mongolia copper gold in your portfolio. So how does that sort of fit into your long-term strategy outside of Australia?
Yeah, Mongolia is Kincora's original flagship asset, and we're just going through getting a second mining license that will provide full coverage across the Bronze Fox project. It's got an existing large JORC resource. It's got an oxide component to that, and we're just updating the economics for that, because if you put in spot copper, that oxide resource looks really interesting from a potential near-term cash flow SXEW development project. But the focus, as you've touched on, is New South Wales. So we're looking at how do we realise value from our shareholders' perspective for the Mongolian asset. Is it a straight cash divestment? Is it a earn-in or earn-out deal? We're exploring those avenues, but getting this second mining licence, we think, will be a real catalyst to unlock value for that asset.
Let's also touch upon some of the exploration work you've done. You've some drilling confirming some of your multiple porphyry indicators in Avatar. So can you just talk about what's sort of the potential of this project and then what sort of planning that you have for this?
Yeah, and we've just announced some very strong results from our first phase drilling at Nevertire. That's a project that we've got in a portfolio with Anglo Gold Ashanti, one of the big gold majors. Anglo's got 2 earn-ins with us, where they potentially fund the first $100 million before we, as Kincora, have to fund our share. At the moment, we're the operator. We receive a management fee. That portfolio covers 5 licenses, 100 k's north-south. It's a new province perspective. At Nevertire, we just drilled 8 holes late last year. They confirmed and upgraded our immediate target. We're in there drilling at the moment, following that up, looking to confirm a new Macquarie Arc discovery, a new porphyry discovery. But at the same time, in that porphyries generally happen in clusters. This is the first cluster. What we've now identified is there's historical drilling that has other very good intervals that haven't been followed up in other clusters. And there's other areas that the geophysics suggests have never been drilled but look really interesting. And that's across a total strike of 40 kilometres. So that's a really a new province scale play. Having the structure and the deal that we have with Anglo Gold is really important to be able to unlock the value to that. It's a big prize, but it will take time and it will take capital, and that dilution is being absorbed at the project level, not the listed equity level.
Yeah, so a lot to look forward to for that project. Let's talk also a bit on your shareholding side, because I know you're also listed on the Australian Stock Exchange besides the Canadian exchange. So can you just tell us a bit about sort of what are your major shareholders that you want to talk about and sort of support you within?
Yeah, and as you pick up, Gilbert, the ticker's KCC, both on the ASX and TSXV. We've got about half our number of shares listed on either market. Board and reporting insiders represent about 30% of the company. That financing that we did on the venture exchange last year, we raised 4 million Canadian. That came with a 12-month hold period, so that's locked up until September 2026. That was led by Rick Rule, Jeff Phillips, and a really high-quality group of investors and close associates of those 2 networks. So free float is about 40%. You're seeing good volume both on the TSXV and ASX. So a good shareholder registry that is backing a strong technical team, a good portfolio, this hybrid prospect generator model, and a very attractive share structure. And I should mention that the money that we raised last year is supporting us doing some very focused value add activities on our 100% owned projects. Within the first 12 months of adopting this business model, we're drilling 7 different licenses. So in terms of providing shareholders shots on goal and testing new targets, I'd like to think that's one of the most active copper gold juniors that you'd find anywhere.
Yeah. And let's talk about the last important question for investors. Well, obviously the share price. I think Kincora has increased quite substantially last year and sort of stabilized afterwards, but it's still a pretty good growth last year on the stock price. And so can you explain any particular reason or factors affecting besides just the market sentiment? And do you believe you're still at this point undervalued and with more growth potential?
I think absolutely. We're still in the early stages of ramping up this business model. As mentioned, we've had about 7 million of partner funding of potentially over 100 of the deals that we've done to date. Our flagship assets, we still haven't got partners for. So we're in active conversations. We've had 3 gold majors, 1 diversified major, finished technical due diligence. We're in conversations with them regarding our Trundle and Fairholme projects. We're looking at monetizing our Mongolian asset. So in terms of ramping up exploration profile and still doing further deals, we're in a really nice sweet spot for that. In terms of how do you think of valuing prospect generators? A really good example was Greatland Gold with the Havieron deposit. Newcrest was earning into that, and they got onto a new discovery that re-rated Greatland Gold from a 50 million market cap to 1.5 billion, being funded by Newcrest. So these big copper gold systems lend themselves very well to that model. And more recently, you've got AMARC Resources in British Columbia that's got an earn-in with Freeport, pre-resource, really good success story. So significant leverage from this business model. In terms of how do you think of valuing Kincora today, I think you've got a very good peer group with Inflection Resources, which is listed on the CSE, ticker AUCU. They've got a partnership with Anglo Gold Ashanti, exploring ground very similar to what we are with Nevertire. So that's a great analog. Their market cap sort of circa 30. Our market cap today is circa 50. If you strip out Inflection's value, the other 7 assets in Kincora's portfolio, which I'd argue are more valuable assets, are only being valued at 20. So I think us executing further deals, getting on and having good exploration results provides a lot of leverage to shareholders.
Yeah, great. These are some of the good examples that investors can relate to for sure. Yeah,
And
so
there's
really,
plenty,
yeah.
and there's plenty of information up on our website there, Gilbert, in our corporate presentation that provides some analogs in terms of prospect project generators and gives your audience a bit of a feel for relative valuations.
Great. Yes. So thank you for your interview, your time with us here today, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with you again soon, to talk about some updates for sure next time.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us on.
Yes. Thank you, Sam.